So let's talk about the slouching part because we're already there.
Okay,
right?
okay.
So a lot of people with back pain tends to sit up tall from a couple of different reasons,
like this,
right?
like they've been taught.
Too tall.
Okay,
Right,
okay.
too tall. So you're sitting up tall right now, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting up tall.
Now just feel your back muscles right now.
It's tight.
It's
tight,
right?
right?
You're using your back muscles.
And audience, this is not scripted. This is me doing it for the first time.
Yeah, you're literally feeling your muscles tighten up as you're trying to sit up tall.
Absolutely.
Right? Now
It's
just
tight.
go ahead and exhale and just come back. And now that muscle should feel a little bit looser.
It's loose. Yeah.
That's slouching. But most people lost the ability to slouch. And they're not slouching from the right place. That's the difference, right? So we have the thing called rib cage. It's right here. Now, let's say we sit up tall all day like this, and the rib cage is going to be stuck in this shape right here. And if this rib cage can't move, can we slouch?
No.
Yeah, we can, but we will slouch from the spine. We'll slouch, like try to keep this tall right here and try to slouch. You would feel most of the slouching coming from the low back area, right? But if we teach someone to move this part of the body like this, now they're slouching from the upper back. They're slouching from the rib cage. And that's a lot more comfortable. But if they don't have access to that, they're gonna get a lot more movement from the spine, which is not so comfortable. So you think about like my finger, right? Like I have the upper back here and I have the lower back here. Let's say this part is very stuck, like it can't move. But we need to get from A to B, so how do we get there? We get it from
The whole thing?
we get it from the lower part, because the top part's not moving. But if the top part can move and the lower part can move, then it's a little bit more unison, right? You think about like, let's say we're slouching, we can get 50% of the slouch from here and 50% of the slouch from here. But if someone's really stuck up here, they're gonna get 90% of the movement from down here.
Yeah.
So their default is to always hinge their back, always stress their low back when they're slouching. So what do? We teach someone how to slouch. And how do we get people to slouch and move the rib cage? We exhale. Think about all the times that you're stressed and you're working at a desk. How often do you take a deep exhale?
Let's go. Okay, welcome to another episode of Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. Today, I got one of my best friends, Dr. J, in the house. He's the owner of PhysioX. He is out here changing lives, helping people live life without limits. It's a beautiful, beautiful business, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see my friend just evolving his business ever since the day he grew up in affordable housing. We grew up in the same building together. This episode will not be about real estate investing, but one of our goals of our podcast is to highlight folks like Dr. J, like our prior episode with LT, people that grew up in affordable housing that had just become amazing individuals today. And that's why I want to bring Dr. J on to the podcast today. So Dr. J, welcome to the podcast, man. I'm so excited to be talking to you today because we've never really had a conversation like this one-on-one. So I can't wait, man. Just for the people that don't know you, man, introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I think your introduction was pretty on point over there. Yeah, actually my first podcast, so it's pretty cool. And I never thought it'd be like a real estate podcast. But hey, as far as my life's been concerned, everything kind of happens pretty randomly, but all kind of works out at the end. Yeah, my name is Dr. J. I've been running a business called PhysioX since 2020. And it really started off online mostly. And the premise is that I'm just trying to help people fix their movement patterns so they can live a better pain-free lifestyle. And what I learned is that most people don't really need to see their physical therapist all the time. What they really need is just knowledge and how to execute it properly, along with some accountability. So it's been pretty successful online, and now we're moving to a brick and mortar clinic, and we're just gonna move that model into this in-person style of treatment.
That's so cool, man. I think seeing your business evolve over the years has been really incredible. And man, it's just seeing, we grew up in the same building, and you have come such a long way. I mean, look at this beautiful studio you have, man. This beautiful clinic. It's amazing, man. I'm just so proud of you, man. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I'm just so proud of you, and I'm just so happy you're here. But maybe for the audience that doesn't really know about what it means to grow up in affordable housing, maybe can you just tell us a little story about who your parents are and how they grew up in affordable housing, how you grew up in affordable housing, and more importantly, what did affordable housing mean for you growing up?
Absolutely. I mean, it really is. Without affordable housing, literally would not be doing what I'm doing today. Absolutely not. Because, I mean, we grew up in very similar backgrounds. Our parents immigrated here from China. You know, we came with nothing on their backs. And then we're growing up in this place with just so much opportunity. Sometimes I think back and say, hey, what if they didn't come here, right? What if they are just back home? I'll probably be a farmer. I think about this all the time. I'm like, hey, instead of doing what I'm doing, I could be farming. And the weird part is, I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to do it. I kind of want to farm. You know, sometimes I just want to be out there in the fields. But I digress. But yes, affordable housing. I mean, we grew up in the middle of Boston, right? We're so used to it, though. But when I got into like high school, college, it's kind of a privilege in a way.
Yeah.
So in a roundabout type of way, affordable housing allows me to live a very privileged life without having the privilege of all the money that you need to live in Boston. So I think, I mean, I can really go on for days of how impactful it can be.
And I mean, I can see what it has done for you because we literally grew up in the same building, and I've watched you, like we played basketball together ever since we were young. We really went to school across the street and everything. And I see now that your parents are thriving. They still live in the same apartment building as my parents. And I see that you have been able to, not like say get out, but you have been able to take advantage of, like you mentioned privilege, but you've been able to take advantage of the environment that was given to you and really thrive on it. You didn't just say like, hey, let me settle, let me just stay where I am, stay comfortable. You decided to become an entrepreneur. You decided to take the leap of faith, right? You started your business in 2020 during COVID. Tell me how scary it was for you to make that leap, because I don't think people understand when you are growing up in an environment where everyone, I'm sure your parents and my parents are similar in that manner. We're like, hey, just go to school, get a stable job, work until you're 65, retire. But you and I did something completely different. We all went out. I chose real estate. You're doing your PhysioX business. How scary was it, man?
Yeah, so it was kind of, I don't want to put this lightly because the pandemic was very hard for a lot of people, but at the same time, it really opened up a lot of opportunities in that same time frame. So what I found was just that in the time of the pandemic, everyone's at home, and one thing that was really missing is just connection.
Yeah.
And I found that people are online more, people are digesting a lot more content, and I just started creating a little bit more content. And in the beginning, I was like kind of making it in a way where like, well, what do people want to see? What, you know, should I make some exercise videos?
Yeah.
And I did all of that.
Yeah.
I did what we're supposed to do. And then I shifted one day and I said, you know what? I'm just gonna make videos that I like to make. I'm just gonna be me on camera and show it to the world. And there's something about being authentic, putting it out there, people really resonate with. And from there, I found that what if I just talk about what I do in a way that just myself, I'm gonna attract the people that like me.
Yes.
And it's crazy because that's how the whole business started. You know, it's just out of pure authenticity. So, yeah, I'm not sure answer the question, but how scary it was at the time of the pandemic is, to this day, it's probably one of the scariest things that I've done so far.
Yeah.
Because I had a stable job. You know, I was good amount of caseload. I'm getting people better. I was pretty confident in my skill set. And then I'm like, all right, now I want to throw all that away and just start from zero.
Wild.
And start in a way where it's not really the traditional path at all. It's like, not only is it entrepreneurship, but it's also, we're doing it online in a field that's traditionally seen in person, right? But
I mean, that's what impressed me about your business, because when you started, I think I remember seeing you in Hawaii for one of our boys' trips. And I remember you setting up videos, showing how you were setting up customized videos with exercises for a specific client. You didn't do a cookie cutter approach. You said, let me do my best to help this person specifically. And I think that's how I knew you were going to be successful, man. Like when I saw that, wow, this guy didn't take a cookie cutter approach, where I've seen PT offices. I used to be an EMT, and I walked in those offices before. And I was like, huh, it's kind of like just like a row of people, and they were just working on patients. You took a different approach, and you allowed people to meet you where they are. And they came in and they said, hey, Dr. J, this is my problem. What can I do? And you gave them almost a customized program. You made a business that almost required people to be in person, successful online. And that is like the true marking of entrepreneur, man. You figure out a problem and you devise the solution and you did it. Mm-hmm. And I just think about like all the hard things you have done in life, and I've watched you throughout your entire career, man. You went to school, you were still in school when everybody was graduating. You took a really hard job, you learned the skills, and you never were too good for anything. Maybe if I would take a step back a little bit, why PT, man? Like, I felt like one day you just told me, hey, I'm going to school, this is what I'm studying. I'm like, I don't think we ever talked about this, but why PT? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I think it kind of just made a lot of sense just from the trajectory of how my life was going at the moment, right? So, we were at the YMCA. We were on like the little mini Celtics team.
This elementary school.
We were killing it though. We were the champions, right?
Yeah, we were the champions.
It was just me and you, really. We didn't need the other teammates.
That's right.
It's besides the point. We're gonna be going on like a bunch of tangents. But anyways, so I was always into fitness. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I should even go back a little bit more. I was into gaming, first of all.
Yes.
I was playing games all day.
Yes.
Counter-Strike, Diablo 2. Those are my jam, right?
Yep.
And I spent hours doing that. But in high school, there's this guy, he was in the class with me, he looked at me and he goes, hey, you should play volleyball. And I'm like, no. First of all, it's not a manly sport. If I'm gonna play something, I'm gonna play football, basketball or something, right? But I don't know what it is. Convinced me. I went into the court. I started playing volleyball, and there's something about just getting better at something physically that really just kind of satisfied this itch in me that I didn't really had or know I needed from playing games. And just from there, I started doing a little bit more sports. I'm lifting weights a little bit. Went to the YMCA, started to lift a little bit of weight. Honestly, I started the lifting weights thing because vanity, really.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we're young. We're trying to lift weights. We're trying to get stronger.
15 years old. I watch like Matthew McConaughey on the screen take off his shirt and all the girls go crazy, and I'm like, that's the guy I want to be. You know what I mean? Started lifting weights. Became like a staff.
Okay.
At the YMCA. From there, became a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And then from there, I just kept diving more and more into it. And it's just fascinating because, look, we can do something physically to the body.
Yes.
And makes our joints feel different. I discovered foam rolling.
Yep.
And I did it for myself because I was having some knee pain from playing volleyball.
Yeah.
Took it away. And I'm like, man, I feel like more people should know about this. And it just kind of kept going to the point, I'm in college, I'm taking all these kinesiology classes all the way through, and I'm like, I still want to learn more. So how do I take this a step further? And I know I want to do something physical, not just be a doctor. I wouldn't say not just be a doctor, it's very hard to be a MD. But I don't want to dive into the realm of the chemistry and the biology and what's involved in it. I want more the physical aspects of that knowledge. So I chose PT school.
Got it.
And what actually kept me in is just watching people change their lives, right? People coming in here and they say, look, I haven't been able to play with my kids for the last 2 years. And now I have this opportunity to do that. And thank you. Without you, wouldn't have been possible. And those kind of stories, those are the stories that really kept me going.
Yeah, I call it like the emotional income. It goes beyond any financial compensation you can go through. It's knowing that you had an impact on somebody and knowing that they're probably going to pay it forward in ways that you will never know. And I think that's why we got into affordable housing. Like, just think about the guy that built the apartment building for us. He or she would probably never be able to fathom the impact that affordable housing has had on someone. where look at you, you were just a kid growing up in affordable housing, and now you are literally changing lives. Who knows, maybe it's one of the relatives that you're helping nowadays, but you are literally changing their lives, and you are helping them live a life without limits, and you are actually helping them live a pain-free life. And for someone, that is so, so important, for them to enjoy their time with their kids. It's priceless, man. That's why I love sharing. I don't really promote that many other people's stories on my Instagram, but I know you are out here changing lives, and I think it's so important for people to appreciate that there is another method to this madness. There is another way to get better, besides for just taking prescription medicines or over-the-counter medicines, stuff like that. And that's why you are so successful today. And I think about how you're so successful, right? Everything is like a series of, let me back up. I think there's a saying out there that says, hey, success isn't a surprise. It's just a accumulation of decisions. And you have made those decisions time in and time out. I remember watching you go to work at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and I'm just struggling to get up because I'm not a morning person. I'm struggling to get up, but I know that you're out there meeting with clients and making appointments already. That has translated to where you are today because of all those things that you've done. I'm just so proud of you, man. Maybe let's keep educating the audience a little bit, because this podcast is about real estate and affordable housing, but I want to always bring value to the audience, because for people that don't really understand what PT is and how you do it differently, can you just help them understand, like, hey, what is traditional PT from what you understand, and how are you doing things differently?
Right. So maybe have a little tea. Take a little breather.
Okay, let's go.
So in traditional PT, you get a script from the doctor. You say, oh, you have this back pain. You go see this person.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem is that we are just narrowing it down to one diagnosis. You come in, you're a back pain person. Someone else come in, you're a shoulder pain person.
Yeah.
But what is beneath it all is a lot more important. So here, let me elaborate a little bit more. So not everywhere you feel your pain is where the problem is. And what we different is that we consider how everything works together.
Yep.
And we really take an emphasis on the nervous system. Because we believe that movement generally happens in the subconscious. So for example, when you lift up the teacup, you have a little tea here, you bring it to your mouth.
Yep.
You have a sip.
Yep.
You're not thinking about, I'm gonna use my bicep, I'm gonna use my forearm. You just do it, right?
Yes.
You have an action in your mind, you have a goal,
Yep.
you get it done. You expect all your muscles and joints to work in collaboration to get this done. So this is how I love to explain to people. I call it the detour analogy. All right?
Okay.
So let's say you start a job, you gotta get from your home to the office.
Yep.
First day, you're gonna put on the GPS, you're gonna put in the address to the office, 20 minutes, great, you get in the car, you drive, all right? A couple more days go by, you use the GPS, but after a month, you don't have to use the GPS anymore, right? Autopilot. You get in the car, next thing you know, you're there already. You don't know how you get there.
Yep.
So we call that your default movement pattern. Everyone has that.
Got it.
Okay, now imagine one day you start driving, and there's a detour. Normal path, no longer there. You got to take a right, and when you took this right, you went through some potholes, you hit traffic.
Okay.
My God, it's just strenuous. You get there, and now it took you like 50 minutes. And you're like, God, that was awful. Next day you go, detour still there. Another 50 minutes. After a while, guess what happens? That 50-minute now becomes your new normal. Now that becomes your new default movement pattern, right? So what happens there? It could be, oh yeah, I sprained my ankle real bad like 5 years ago, and I was walking around with a little bit of a limp, and then now you're gonna walk a little bit differently. Now when you do squats, it's gonna look a little bit differently, but it's all happening in the subconscious, you see. You're not thinking about doing it different. Your body just have to adapt, right? So, and then maybe after, you hurt your ankle, you do a squat and you hurt your hip. Now you start to understand that what you're doing right now, how your body's moving, is an accumulation of all different detours that you've taken in your life.
Yeah.
And that's what you look like, right? Now imagine a third scenario. You start driving, another detour. This time to the left, to the left. This left, you're like, fuck, another detour, God. As if this 50-minute ride isn't enough, right? But it brought you over to a shortcut.
Oh.
you miss the traffic, you miss the potholes, you get to the office, 10 minutes. You're like,
What?
What? Oh, this is crazy, right? So what do? The next day, you take it over again and again and again until now that 10-minute becomes your new default movement pathway.
Got it.
So this is what we do. We are gonna be sitting on the passenger side. You're on the driver's seat, and you're just gonna, I'm gonna be like, take a left here, take a right here, see that street, take a little bit of a turn this way, get to your destination, great. I want you to do it on your own over and over again. And this is what traditional PT doesn't do, is that usually they're doing a lot of work on you. They put you in a little stem pad, they massage you, all that stuff. It's great. It's kind of like just sitting on the driver's seat and you're on the passenger seat. They get you feeling better, but you have no idea how to do that for yourself. And those effects don't really last. Right? So this is kind of the biggest way that we're different. Is that we're working with the nervous system here. We're trying to change your default movement patterns. We're not looking at the symptoms completely. That all sounds all good, but like, what does it look like in person? So if someone comes to see us, what we'll do, we'll have them move. I'm have you bend down this way, this way, this way, arch back, whatever it is. But I don't want you to think about how you're doing it. Just do it. Do it like how your body wants to do it.
Okay, got it.
And then I'm watching all these moves, and I'm like, okay, it seems like, okay, you have a little pain going down, you know, whatever. I'm gonna show you a detour.
Nice.
And that detour may look like, I want your foot to do this certain move. I want you to feel these muscles work. You feel that. I want you to be in a certain position. I want you to breathe in this way. I want you to feel ear in this part of your body. It seems kind of random, right? You come out of it, you do those same moves again. I'm looking for two things. Does it feel better doing it a second time around? Does it look different a second time around? Both, it's gonna be the best case scenario. And if it does look better the second time around without having to do it any differently, then I can be pretty sure that, hey, look, we just did something that's gonna give you that detour, that's gonna change your default movement pattern. All you gotta do is do it over and over again.
That is so good.
Right? Versus you go to a traditional clinic, they go there, they're like, yeah, you do this exercise, but you don't really know what is happening in your body. You don't feel the change.
Just doing exercises.
Just doing exercises. And who wants to do exercises? People want to do something that's meaningful, and we're here to provide you something that's meaningful because we want to prove to you that what we do is actually going to create a difference in you. And you should be able to feel it within the first session.
That is so cool. I've watched some of your videos where you're literally teaching people how to slouch. And I was like, I feel like I've been taught to just constantly sit up straight in my entire life. Why is this guy different? And I was like, this is one of my best friends teaching this stuff. This is so cool. I've seen videos of you saying, hey, clench your butthole. I've seen videos of you saying, you got to engage your glutes. And I think you're helping people almost become aware of their own thoughts because like you said earlier, it's like they were just doing things like they were, but you help them engage something differently, changing the environment a little bit, and you have the space that puts them in the environment so that they can become aware of what they need to do to become better. Man, I mean, give us a real example. You don't have to name any patient names, but like tell us like a really common scenario that you run into from your patients, and how did you actually help them? Like, did you give them different exercises to help them re-engage their brain? Like, tell us something. Like, make it real for the audience about like what do you actually do.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the slouching part because we're already there.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So a lot of people with back pain tends to sit up tall from a couple of different reasons,
like this,
right?
Like
too tall.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Too tall. So you're sitting up tall right now, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting up tall.
Now just feel your back muscles right now.
It's tight.
It's tight, right? You're using your back muscles.
And audience, this is not scripted. This is me doing it for the first time.
You're literally feeling your muscles tighten up as you're trying to sit up tall.
Absolutely.
Right? Now just go ahead and exhale and just come back. And now that muscle should feel a little bit looser.
It's loose,
That's slouching. But most people lost the ability to slouch. And they're not slouching from the right place. That's the difference, right? So we have the thing called rib cage. It's right here. Now, let's say we sit up tall all day like this, and the rib cage is going to be stuck in this shape right here. And if this rib cage can't move, can we slouch?
No?
Yeah, we can, but we will slouch from the spine. We'll slouch, like try to keep this tall right here and try to slouch. You would feel most of the slouching coming from the low back area, right? But if we teach someone to move this part of the body like this, now they're slouching from the upper back, just slouching from the rib cage. And that's a lot more comfortable. But if they don't have access to that, they're gonna get a lot more movement from the spine, which is not so comfortable. So you think about like my finger, right? Like I have the upper back here and I have the lower back here. Let's say this part is very stuck, like it can't move. But we need to get from A to B, so how do we get there? We get it from
The whole thing?
we get it from the lower part, because the top part's not moving. But if the top part can move and the lower part can move, then it's a little bit more unison, right? You think about like, let's say we're slouching, we can get 50% of the slouch from here and then 50% of the slouch from here. But if someone's really stuck up here, they're gonna get 90% of the movement from down here.
Yeah.
So their default is to always hinge their back, always stress their low back when they're slouching. So what do? We teach someone how to slouch. And how do we get people to slouch and move the rib cage? We exhale. Think about all the times that you're stressed and you're working at a desk. How often do you take a deep exhale?
Not often.
You might not.
Stressed, right?
You're stressed. You might not even breathe.
Very short breaths.
Short breath. And guess what happens when you have short breath? These ribs just stays inflated. They stay.
It's almost
still.
within like a narrow range.
A narrow range. But if you take a, see how that starts to get you to slouch over
I almost feel like a little relaxation in my brain almost.
A little relaxation, and people need that. Especially in this day and age, everyone is just super stressed. And now, this is going to go on a little bit of tangent, but now we're starting to see how the way that we feel emotionally can have a drastic effect on the way that we move physically because of the physical effect of what breathing has on here and what the emotional effect that it has on the physical movement of the ribs as well. So now we're drawing this very, very strong connection, and people need to see that. Because people think about breathing and they're like, yeah, some spiritual stuff. It's just, you know, some hokey pokey stuff. It's like, no, there's literally physically things are moving in your body when you breathe.
Right, and you need to be conscious of what you're doing to your body whenever you are actually in that state of mind. And I think that's what you're really helping people do. That is so cool. So do people mostly come in here for back pain? Is like the number one symptom or something like that? Like what else do you help treat, or what kind of problems do you help solve?
Right. So I wouldn't say we're very specific on any joint specifically. Back pain just seems to be most common.
That's true.
But everyone comes in with different type of issues, knee issues, ankle issues, hip issues. But usually the people that come in are the ones who have tried traditional physical therapy, have tried a lot of different things, where they're only looking at that one piece, but they know there's something missing, right? It's like, yeah, I have this knee issue, but it's only sometimes, it's not all the time.
Right.
And when I have this knee issue, for some reason, my left hip also hurts at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
And when this hip gets worse, that knee gets worse, right? So there's this connection. They're like, they know there's a connection, but no one really tried to figure out what that connection is.
Wow.
So we come in here, we watch the entire movement patterns, and we're like, look, you have a knee issue, I get it, but it's because your shin bone, it's not really moving when your ankle needs to go forward.
So the shin bone, let me say, like the shin bone wasn't moving when the foot and ankle was moving?
Oh, yeah,
Did I catch that correctly?
Yeah.
What?
So when your knee needs to go forward past your toes, your shin bone needs to create some kind of rotation to happen.
Interesting.
And for that to happen, your foot needs to go change into a shape, whether it's going flat or going arch. Now, if the foot isn't really moving well, that means that shin bone is not going to move very well. That means that knee is not going to feel very good. Right? You think about the knee feels good when it's doing this, when both bones are kind of moving on a similar pace. When one bone is moving a little bit faster than the other bone, now you have a little bit of a twist in the knee, right?
So that looks painful already,
right?
Looking at it.
But is it a knee problem? Or it could be a foot problem, or it could be a hip problem. So we're just looking at one part of the body and trying to figure out what the symptoms and how to fix it. We're gonna miss out on actually the root cause of it.
Man, that's incredible, man. And I think you explained it in a way that I actually understood it, and the audience will probably understand it just by the way you explained it.
Honestly, that is where I spent half my day just thinking about how do I explain this in a way that people can digest and understand. Because look, you go to a lot of medical offices
Yeah.
and things, they'll explain to you what's going on in your body, and you're like, you're not even speaking my language.
Yeah. They might give you a handout and say like, this is what's wrong with you. Or like you said, PT officer, like they'll give you a handout of all the exercises that you have to do. That's it. I was like, what is actually going to affect that change? How do you actually help me? Because I think in business and everything, it's almost like 80% is mindset. It's like, how do you become aware of what you need to do to become better? And I think that's what you are unlocking. It's like that most important part that people aren't thinking about. They think it's just like something you prescribe. It's not. You have to help them engage and dig even deeper. And I think that's where you are having success.
Right. So a lot of my content in the early stage of TikTok is never, never really show people what I do for exercises.
Yeah,
You don't really see me showing you an exercise.
Yeah.
But I'm always trying to find ways to get you to think about what you're doing differently. And that's in business, right? That's what you're doing in your content. You go into affordable housing market, and people think about affordable housing. They're like, yeah, just, government back, how can that be something that can give me this life freedom that I'm looking for? Well, why would I invest in that? But you're coming out with these things like, well, it's kind of guaranteed that you're going to get paid for some of these things, right?
Right.
So those are very interesting concepts that you bring forth, and these things I'm not privy to at all.
Yeah.
But I'm interested. I'm watching that stuff, and I'm like, well, I don't have to cash flow right now. But when I do, I know a guy,
But this is why I think you and I get along, because we understand how difficult this journey is and sometimes how lonely this journey is, because it's not like we have incredibly supportive wives, but I think for sometimes like there's certain decisions you go through in life and you're like, hey, is this the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? Am I focused on the right thing? And that's why, sometimes I just give you a call randomly, just to like, hey, look, I see what you're doing. Keep at it. I know it's hard. That's why I call you, man. It's not because I understand what you're going through, but I kind of understand the support that you really need to build this, man. This took a massive amount of effort. And I trace it all back to, again, affordable housing, is because if you never had that home growing up, if you didn't have a stable roof going up, like you, again, would not be where you are today. I wouldn't be where I am today without that home. And I think about it because we can in turn pay it forward in our own ways, not just through real estate, but through what you're doing, just changing lives, creating a positive impact, helping these people spend time with their family. I know one day I'm getting old. I know one day I'm gonna get some back pain, and I know one day I'm gonna be in here. I'll be like, hey, dude, I should have watched more of your videos. Let's take it from the top again. Let's, for the people that are thinking about starting their own business, going on their own journey, anything that is far from the typical path of go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job, marry, have kids, and work until you're 65 and retire. Like, what advice do you have for them about starting on your own journey, starting your own business? How do they even mentally prepare for that? And what kind of advice do you have for them if they are thinking about this?
Well, I think it starts with an itch, right? You got to have an itch that you want to do something that's a little bit more than what you're already doing. And if you have that itch and it keeps kind of gnawing at you, like something super annoying, you can't, like a scratch in your back, you can't get, and it's happening for like 6 months, a year, it's time to find that itch and scratch it a little bit, right? But, so scratching is kind of the first part. But I think if you want to build something, you got to know why you're building it.
Yeah.
And I think you've done a good job of that, because you know why you're doing it, because you're looking for the people like us who grew up in affordable housing. How do we provide that type of opportunity and watch that trickle effect kind of amass into different parts of life, that's such as how we're growing up right now. So when I embark on my journey, I kind of want to understand, well, what is it about? Am I building a physical therapy clinic? Well, there's a million of them. Yeah,
that's true.
Right? How am I going to be different? Well, so I kind of dive into just like the deeper meaning of what we're trying to do. Like, are we trying to fix people's backs? Are we trying to fix people's hips and knees? Yes, in a way we are.
Yeah.
But what are we actually doing? We're trying to enhance their human experience. We're trying to let them live a life that they have envisioned that they thought would have been impossible.
Yeah.
Because their body just couldn't take them where they want to be.
Yeah.
How do we give people that type of effect? So when I design like just how the place looks like, when I design the logo,
Yeah.
I incorporate some of these virtues in there. Like in the X,
That's right.
it's actually the human character for human. It's just to remind us like, hey, look, we are a physical therapy company, but our true goal is really to
Yeah. Yeah.
create more fulfilled human beings. And it's a Chinese character because
Yeah.
of our upbringing too as Asian Americans.
Yeah.
Going to entrepreneurship is not the first choice. It's not the safe choice. But I mean, we're watching some amazing Asian Americans kind of making it now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, in
right.
Hollywood. So
Yeah.
kind of the influence is starting to spread. And I'm like, how can I play a role in that? How can I inspire the next generation of Asian Americans or minorities who wants to embark in an entrepreneurial journey?
That's right.
So can I mix something like that in the forefront? And I'm not sure about you growing up. I mean, I was a quiet kid in the back of the class. I don't want to cause any attention to bring to myself, right?
That's what we're taught.
That's what we're taught.
We're taught not to cause any trouble.
It's kind of in our culture, right? But that's not how we move forward. So when I designed this whole thing, it's like, can I also bring some empowerment to my people in a way? And also, eventually when I expand, I want to hire other physical therapists.
That's right.
And I'm gonna tell you, the physical therapy profession is not good for the people practicing in it. The burnout rate is extraordinarily high. They see like 80 ton of people a day, like twice, maybe 3 times the
Because
amount.
you need volume, right? You need volume for the money.
You need the volume.
Yep,
That's
I
because
understand.
they're in a traditional insurance-based clinic.
That's right.
Business is math too. The math
Correct.
needs to work.
Correct.
And for that math to work, they need to work those people like horses.
Yes.
And they get burnt out.
They gotta get efficiency. I get it.
Right. So
that's why. Okay.
also, when I'm building PhysioX, it's like when I hire someone, can I pay them a really good salary? Because look, if we're all about living life without limits, if we're about living a fulfilled life, I need to be able to monetarily compensate my employees in a way that allows them to live the model that we're trying to preach.
Exactly.
So how do we do that? So these are the questions I ask myself when I'm building the business.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times as an entrepreneur, we're just asking ourselves questions. Just asking questions.
Yeah.
I think one advice, I mean, I've only been doing this for a couple of years. I don't think I'm an expert or anything, but I think if I were to give one advice for people starting out into entrepreneurship, is learning to ask the right questions.
Love that.
And then when you have the right answers to those questions, then you will know your next move.
I love that. And I think this is so cool because you and I get together like physically probably once, maybe twice a year. And whenever you and I catch up, we almost like debrief each other about the people we've met, the experiences that we've had, and we bring it back and we share that with one another to see how we can help each other continue growing because we know that this journey is hard. And I think you summarized it really well by saying the advice is to ask the right questions. When you ask the right questions, you start getting into the right rooms. You might even ask yourself the question like, hey, am I in the right room? Am I doing this the right way? Those thoughts of self-doubt and fear actually never really go away. Like today, when I look at deals for real estate, I'm always questioning myself, wow, what if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? And I had to have people give me advice, mentors give me advice. You got to start asking like, well, what if it goes right? What if it goes right? Because we're taught with that fear growing up. We're taught to save money because we came from a scarcity mindset. Now you are saying, hey, you are exemplifying an abundance mindset. You're saying, let me not work my staff to death because I have seen that model fail. Let me do something different. And you've actually had the courage to take that path, to do something different, to be a leader. And I think that's where you are beyond your years, man. You're doing things differently. You're doing things so cool. And you really have somebody's best interests at heart. And I think that will outweigh any obstacle that really kind of comes in your way.
Yeah, absolutely. I would kind of want to challenge you on the abundance mindset, but I agree with it. We should have abundant mindset, but there's this one There's one frame that kind of keeps me going.
Yeah.
It's almost counterintuitive to
Oh, tell
success.
me. Oh, I like this. Let's go.
It is, what if it doesn't go well? What if everything goes to shit?
Yeah.
The question now becomes, what would I do then?
Yeah.
And if I have to answer that question, then I can't fail. So this is a weird thing that I do.
Yeah.
I imagine if I'm homeless, what would I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a plan. I'll be out on the streets. I still have my skills.
Yeah.
I still know how to fix people's bags. I still know how to do all that.
Yeah.
I can write a couple of jokes maybe,
Yeah.
I can do a little weird stuff. I'll do a little dance.
Yeah.
I'll panhandle a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'll try to be clever with the marketing, I'll try to have different copies. I'm trying to just get a little bit more interest in people. So
Yeah.
this is weird. I have a plan to get out of being homeless.
I love that.
And that's how I'm able to keep going. That's how I'm able to take risks. Because I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? I run out of money. I'm living on the streets, but I got a plan to get out. So I'm still good.
You're so good.
I'm still good. But of course, you also want to look at the positive too. So there's this duality, and they don't they can coexist with each other.
Yeah. But I think what gave you the ability to come up with a plan to get out of homeless is, again, I go back to success is never a surprise. It is a series of decisions that you've made. And I have seen you make hard decisions time in and time out, man. Time in and time out, you've done hard things. And when you look back and you can say, man, that was really hard, but I got through it. Man, that was really hard, but I did it. Or man, that was really hard, but I knew who to reach out to for help. That's why you have a plan to get out of being homeless, man. You've done everything in your power in your life to get ready for that moment. You're like, hey, even if I've done, look at the things I learned from marketing. Like, dude, like, come on. You are gonna be immensely successful in your life, man. And that's not a comment or compliment I give lightly. You have done hard things time in and time out, and sometimes that's not true for all of our friends. But you and I, we don't try to like convince our friends, like our friends are who we grew up with. And I think you and I are just like trying to just be role models, trying to lay out like, hey, if you want to do this, it's possible. We all grew up from the same place. We just sometimes make different choices. We make different decisions, but no one's ever too late for this stuff. And I think that's why you're so inspirational to all the other folks. Like, there must be more than one person out there that is thinking about, man, what if this goes wrong? But hopefully Dr. J's story today will tell you, well, why don't you just have a plan to get out of being homeless?
That's right. If you can get out of being homeless, you can do anything you want. Everything is just cherry on top now.
Exactly. And I think it's so cool because we grew up in affordable housing. We knew that, hey, even if we go back to a very, very small apartment, like I'm visiting right now my parents in a small apartment, and we're making it work. We're not complaining. We're just like, hey, this is where we grew up, and this is it. Like, worst case scenario, we'll be on the streets, but worst case scenario, there's always going to be affordable housing out there, even though there might be a really, really long wait list for an affordable housing unit. But there is always almost going to be a stopgap, and if we can use affordable housing to provide that stopgap solution for people to say like, hey, go out, do your thing, do good for the world. Worst case scenario, you have this fallback plan. Mm-hmm. That gives people almost no excuse to not take a chance of themselves, because you only have one life to live, man. And I love seeing how you're living your life. I genuinely wanted to do this interview today, have this conversation with you today, because you and I haven't had a really good conversation like this for a really, really long time. And I just want to say I'm just so proud of you, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm proud of you.
Dude.
I mean, I'm watching you when you first started when you first started doing your Instagram thing. I'm just like, yo, this boy is awkward, dog. I was like, I just feel like, yo, just laugh at it once in a while. No lie, dude. And then I'm watching, like, I remember this one video you had, and you had like 50 haters.
I remember that one.
Oh my God, they would say shit like shut up, nerd, or some shit like that. I was dying, man, cause I'm dying because I know it's you, and I know it wouldn't affect you. I know it wouldn't hit your ego, but you would just laugh at it, and you would use that as fuel. So, but for me, man, I was just like, oh my God, that's so funny. And I'm like, I can't wait till I get haters coming out of the blue and just starts talking smack. That's kind of how you know you made it. So I'm looking at that reel, I'm just like, man, I've been doing this for like a year, 2 years. Kenny just got some haters, man. He made it before I did. I was like, damn.
Dude, that was like the fourth reel I made.
That's so, yeah, it's early, dude.
That was the fourth reel I made. We got 20,000 views and we got so many haters. And I remember replying back to them. It's like, hey man, I just wish the best for you.
Have nothing to say.
I just wish the best for you. And then they would DM me afterwards and say some other stuff. And I was like, hey man, I just wish the best for you. They're like, sure, whatever. And they got so mad that I was just like being so nice to them. But hey, that's who we are.
Niceness kills, man.
Niceness
kills. It's like sometimes you want to get on someone's nerve, you just be super nice.
Yeah.
And it's like they know you're doing it on purpose. It gets them so worked up, right?
Dude, it's been a while, man. I mean, I deleted Instagram during COVID because it was just so negative. They were all like just bad news, and I needed to remove myself from that negativity. And during COVID, the silver lining was like, dude, I read a lot of books and I listened to a lot of podcasts about Airbnbs, short-term rentals, and I took a chance. And thank God I had my wife Tina, I had our best friends Wilson that signed on the dotted line with me, and these are the relationships.
I'm pissed I didn't sign that line too, bro.
Dude, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's scary, man. It's real money on the line, and I would never fault anyone not signing on the line because it's. To be honest, it was my first deal. Think about how scary that was, man. Like, I took a home equity loan out on my primary residence. Right. We took out like $170,000 to buy that first property to use for down payment. But if you think about it, again, going back to the serious decision, if I never made that decision to buy a primary home in the first place, then I would have had a home equity loan to take out for that property. Tina and I and Wilson, we would have never became millionaires. Mm-hmm. How crazy is that? But then when I was going through that, I had to remind myself about all the hard things I've done in life, which was I used to be an EMT. I used to answer 911 calls. I did this in consulting. I did this for a restaurant. I turned it around. And that's what I'm hoping the audience really gets out of today's conversation with me and you, is because if you think you ever want to break out and do your own thing, you have to start making those hard decisions today, because you can then, when the time comes for you to take the leap, you can reflect back and be like, man, I woke up at 5 a.m. every day for these appointments at Equinox, right? I woke up early for all this stuff. I did the hard things that most people would never do, that you were probably better than 80% of the world right now just because of what you have done in the past. And that was not a surprise. That's literally what you did. And I think that's what I'm hoping the audience takes away from today is, if you're really trying to do something, start doing hard decisions today, because the friends that signed on dotted line with me, they've seen me throughout my entire life. It was no surprise to me that, we're successful today, but they also understand, like, hey, when things are hard, what is he going to do? And they're only going to look back at the evidence of what you have done in the past.
Right.
And that's why, for me, I believe in you so much.
Right. But I think, for you, I think it just kind of speaks on your leadership as well. Because I'll tell you why people sign on that dotted line. Yeah. Because they know that if this shit fails, it's going to hurt you way more than it hurts them.
That's right.
And that's what you want, right? If I sign that line, I was like, why do I sign this line? I talked to Wilson. It's like, you signed a line. I was like, I didn't sign it for the house. I signed it for Kenny. That's what it is. That's the difference. Yeah. It's not about what's going on. It's just a pledge that I believe that Kenny's going to do what he needs to do to get this shit done. And I believe that.
I thank him every day for it.
Yeah. And he thanking you every day for it.
But I tell him all the time, I told him, I was like, I'm never going to forget that you signed on the dotted line, because you could have said no. I remember we were at the lake house, and we were literally closing on that deal at the lake house.
That was a great time.
How cool is that? And man, I just told him how much I loved him, because to say that it was lonely, it's not a insult to him. It's more like, hey, he was still going through the motions with me. We were learning together. And I think you and I, just before this podcast, we have 3 tripods set up, and we're like, how do we do this podcast thing? We see people how to do it. We know it's powerful. We know it's important. Yeah. But if you were waiting for the perfect thing, we would have an umbrella lighting there with with lighting and umbrellas and everything. But I'm hoping for the people out there watching, you don't need to get perfect at it to get started. It's better, you got to start before you're ready. And if we never started, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, just between you and I, like just deepening our friendship.
That might be one of the best tips. Start before you're ready could be one of the best tips.
Yeah.
But don't be stupid though. You know? like start before you're ready, but like, you know, prep once you have some kind of deadline.
Right. You had training, you actually worked a full-time job, you learned a lot of stuff about the business.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to self-confidence, right? The self-confidence is, do you have the ability, or do you think that you can solve problems?
Yeah.
Not like solve physical therapy problems, not like real estate problems. Can you just solve problems in general? And if you believe you can solve problems, then you're gonna be much more able to take some of these risks and just start before you're ready. Because look, if we need to start when we're ready, we'll never be ready, man. We'll never be ready. Oh my God, I remember when I opened up this place and we were looking at a grand opening day and I kept pushing it back.
Yeah.
Kept pushing it back,
Oh, I didn't know this. This is interesting, yeah.
I kept pushing it back, man.
Yeah.
I didn't want to open because I was like, yo, it's just not ready. It's just not ready. Yeah. And it's just like small details, right? So get the lighting, you know.
Lighting.
Just, you know, there's just so much thing I have in here that I want out here.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, dude, it's ready, man.
Yeah.
This is better than all the places that other people could have been to. And I'm like, yeah, but you know, it's missing this, it's missing that. It's like, don't worry. And you know who actually called me out and made me make the move and select a date? Our boy Wilson's wife now, Sharon.
Oh, I love that.
I don't think I ever told her this.
Shout out to Sharon.
So I don't think I told her this. So if she's watching this, you know, she's gonna get a shout out. Shout out to Sharon. So we were just hanging out. And we're talking about this thing, and I'm just like, look, it's not ready, you know, I gotta do this, I'm just gonna keep pushing away. And I think, I forget what she said exactly, but it's something kind of like this. She goes, so are you just afraid that...
I love that question.
Are you just afraid? And I'm like, and I was afraid.
You are.
And I was afraid. You know, there's that imposter symptoms that come, the imposter, whatever.
They call it imposter syndrome, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. And it just kind of creeps up, right? It's like, oh, you know, I'm not, you know, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
People's not gonna think
Why
it's
would you
great.
think you're a PT clinic owner, right?
Yeah, like who am I? I'm just like, I'm a kid from affordable housing that grew up near Chinatown.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be doing this stuff. Like, I'm not good enough. And then once I hear that, I was like, wow. And it goes back to, you just gotta get it done. Because you can't just not open.
Yeah.
You
gotta pay rent, man.
Open,
That's
right?
how it
Pay
works.
rent. So selected a date, made it solid.
Love it.
And just market like crazy.
Yep.
And during the grand opening, it was almost like a fire hazard here. Like we have people here and it's just like, it's just cramped, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I think we did pretty good. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we had the food, we had the lion dance, and it was an awesome day.
Yeah.
It was an awesome day, but I would not have done that without a little push from Sharon.
Yeah.
And that goes back to just start before you're ready.
Yeah, that's right.
And you would always come into this problem. Like before
That's
I
right.
hire my new therapist that's coming on in July, I was like, am I ready? Are we ready to hire another person? You know, what my schedule looks like, blah. I'm just, but you know what? I know once I have someone starting, I would do what I need to do to make sure this will be a success.
Yeah.
Right. So just knowing, having the confidence to know that you can solve problems, that's going to take you so far.
That's right, man. I think I've been on enough trips with you and I've been in enough vacations with you, hung out with you enough that, hey, when problems came up, we found a way to solve it, or things just kind of work out because we never let it stop us from taking that next step and seeing how, man, it's just, this place has come, your business has come such a long way, man. And it's just so cool. I can't stop marveling at your success, admiring your efforts, and just having these conversations with you where we talk about the fear that we have to overcome. Because sometimes we do need someone to ground us. Like, good thing Sharon said, hey, are you just scared? Because sometimes that's exactly the question we need to be asked. It's like the most simple question, but sometimes
we don't even know to ask it. That's the problem.
Sometimes your friends might think it's insulting to ask that question. But I would say if we were to flip back on them, it's like, hey, why aren't you doing something? It's not that we are insulting them or anything like that. It's more of we want to be good friends, and sometimes the good friend asks the hard questions and tells you what you're capable of. And I wish, like, if I had known that you were going through that, I would have called you up real quick. And I'd be like, dude, what are you doing, man? Open up.
Yeah.
But I understand the fear that you were going through. It's not easy. But I think that's why you are where you are today, because you have made those decisions in spite of how much fear you had in your mind and in spite of what unknown obstacles you have. Because you're never going to solve every single problem. You're only going to got to trust in yourself that you have the right team, you have the right friends to ask when these questions come up, or no friends that know other friends that can help
Honestly,
you.
the questions just, the problems just get bigger.
Yeah, I love that.
Right? It just gets bigger. It never gets smaller. Every time from this journey on, I'm just like, oh, I'm going to solve this problem and things will be great. And then a bigger problem comes up and I'm like, this is even worse than the last problem. And then you fix that one and you're like, oh my God, now it's even more.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like you're never going to stop having problems.
Yeah.
You're just going to be better at doing better at solving these problems. And when you're better at solving these problems, you're going to solve bigger problems.
Love that.
That's just the way it is. And you gotta come to terms with that. I'm still fighting it, to be honest. Sometimes I'm just like, yo, I got this good. I'm good. I'm cruising, right? For like a week. You're cruising for a week, and the next thing you know, you're like back in it. Like, how this happened? Like, I thought I was good. You know, I paid this person. They solved this problem. Good. It's crazy. But yeah, I think out of our friend group, you and I were kind of like the problem solvers. At least I see you.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been on so many trips, been on so many adventures, and not all of them go smooth. You know,
somehow.
Just hiccups, bro.
There are hiccups.
Fucking hiccups, bro. Sometimes throw-ups, man.
Yeah.
Just straight up. But I know, I'm like, I'm good. I got Kenny over there. You know, we'll figure it out together.
That's right.
The amount of times we have to just sit down and be like,
we're good.
Everything kind of going to shit right now, but I have a plan. You know, we're gonna do this. It won't be, it's not like
we ain't worry about the left turn. We ain't worry about the left turn.
We ain't worry about the left turn, bro. Just like a 45-degree little indent over here that we can crawl into and make our way over. And that's kind of I think that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is that we're seeing these little paths that other people may not be able to see.
That's right.
But it's also just about training yourself to see it.
That's right.
You can't see something you don't look for.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think now that you and I moved across the country, but you and I are still meeting new people every day. We're not just staying in our own circles. And when we do that, we get exposed to different perspectives, it's kind of like the rule of like, hey, you are the average of the 5 people you're closest to. That is absolutely true, because once you get around certain folks that think a little differently, that views problems differently, that changes your entire perspective about what's possible, what's not. And I have made it a priority to not force that onto any of our friends, because what I've realized is people will just come when they're ready. You just got to meet them where they are. And I think, again, it just goes back to why you're so successful, man. I'm just so proud of you, dude.
Yeah, you can't force people to do something. You can't force someone to do something when they're not ready. Yeah. That's the whole mindset shift thing. Yeah. That's why we create the content. Going back to content creation and all that, right? Whenever we were trying to create anything at all, one of the big focuses have people come out of looking at a video or a blog or content or whatever and make them think, never thought about it that way. That's all we want. Yeah. Because with enough, never thought about it that way, you start a revolution, you start a movement, and it's huge. That's right? Awesome. With social media, one person see it, never thought about this, so we share it, boom, 2, 3, 4 millions. Next thing you know, you just change a whole idea of a perception of what we think is normal. Now it's no longer normal. Now we accepted something brand new. Yeah. And it's beautiful, man.
You just taught me about slouching in less than an hour. That's a incredible piece of value of information that I think people underestimate, to be honest with you, but how life-changing it can be if they apply it on a regular basis. Man, that is so cool, dude. All right, man. Hey, let's wrap this up. For people that want to reach out to you, that want to get in touch with you, how can they find out more about you, man?
Cool, man. So my name is Dr. J. I run a business called PhysioX. You can find me on the website www.physiox.co. No M, just a C-O. Find me on Instagram, Dr. Jiali, Jiali, or my business profile, PhysioX.co.
Thank you, man. Hey, this has been fun. Let's do this again next year, all right?
Let's do it, man.
Do it. Love it.
All right.
Love you, man.